Hello and welcome to another Scoutcast from fantasyfootballscout.co.uk. My name is Joe.
My name's David.
My name's Luke.
My name's Az.
Welcome everyone ahead of a reduced set of fixtures in Gameweek 31. What's coming up on this? Well, the show won't be limited, but the fixtures are. But what's coming up on the show, David?
Yeah, absolutely right. Anyone who thinks that this is going to be a blank Scoutcast is going to be absolutely wrong. We've got loads to talk about. We're going to discuss in detail the best players in lots of different positions ahead of Game Week 31 by position. A lot of people are going to be playing the free hit, so obviously that means that breaking it down into those different, goalkeepers, defenders, midfielders, and forwards all separately is a very important thing to do this week. And even those of us who aren't playing a free hit, it's still important to do because, as we kind of discussed on this podcast, I suppose exactly 12 months ago, sometimes you want to cover those free hitters. So there's lots of reasons to go into lots of detail on all of these different positions. And then obviously we're going to look back at Game Week 30, which obviously hinges on, for a lot of people, whether or not they had Sterling and captained him. Az has finally had a good week, is our little spoiler, and he's very happy about that. And Ruffle the Smooth's back as well. And there's going to be plenty of those in either direction. Some very good game weeks and some very awful ones. And we're going to, once we've discussed Game Week 31 in as much detail as we can, we're going to go and discuss it in even more detail and pick our clean sheet and differential picks as well. So let's get on with the show.
Excellent, we will indeed. So let's start looking back on our game weeks. It's going to be very short for most of us, but it won't be for Az. He'll probably go on. And hey, he has every right to. 86 points, that's taking into account a very well spent hit. What were your moves and who were your stars, Az?
Yeah, how long we got? We've got a few hours, right? So I can.
Got a few hours, yeah.
Don't
worry, I can edit it out. In fact, I'll edit it from about here.
God, it's been a long time coming. It feels like forever since I had a decent game week. 90 points with a -4. I bought in Vardy for Rashford, which was a move I wish I'd done last week because obviously Vardy scored that week and Rashford didn't. So it was quite nice though because I waited last week, so I played the patient game because I was between Maddison, Barnes and Vardy. Thought I'd see what happened in the game last week. Vardy looked like the man to get, so went for him. So although I should have done it earlier, it kind of makes that quite nice because actually if I thought about it and did the move, so that was really good. I bought in Brooks as well, who didn't really do anything, but the money I saved from Brooks allowed me to do Son to Mane, which I think is probably the best transfer I've made all season because it's quite a risky one with Spurs playing Southampton. But I did a bit of the stats number crunching, and Southampton are actually doing pretty well at home defensive wise, and yeah, Son just hasn't looked right for a while, so I thought I'd risk it. And then just before the deadline, I thought, do you know what? In for a penny, let's whack the armband on Mane as well. He's doing better than Salah recently, looking really good at home. And then Mane got 2 and Salah only got an assist, and yeah, Mane really should have passed it to him for that final goal, but then Salah should have passed it to him earlier. So I think Salah got his just rewards. So yeah, it was a really good game week. Kind of one of those weeks where actually, you take a bit of a risk and it really pays off. And too many times this season that hasn't worked.
And a pretty mega rank boost as well. I saw you within the hundreds. You've been in the kind of 200,000, 300,000 as well. And you
I'm pretty much half my ranks. I'm up from 335k to 185.
So top 100k.
Top 100k looking
more than achievable. Probably
yep.
daring to dream of top 50k.
Hopefully, you never know. I'll probably have a stinker this week and be back down, but I don't know, I feel like I'm in pretty good shape going forward. So hopefully, I can kick on from now.
Yeah, no, that's good. So now we've got 3 of us with really average scores. David, you're the best of the rest here with 52. You held a transfer. You went for Salah, but you did have Mane as well, so I guess that was a key difference there. But Rondon as well helping you out. So I don't know. I say, are you pleased with the week or unhappy or a bit meh?
Yeah, it was all right. It was bittersweet, I suppose, because obviously when I moved Mane in for the Everton game, I thought that I might be rewarded for a bit of a ballsy double up. A few game weeks early, didn't happen. So for him to get the 2 goals this week was very nice, but obviously, of course, the fact that I was too chicken to do an Az and captain him was a bit frustrating. But I think even if I hadn't had Mane, I still would have been a bit miffed with. It was nice to have a captain haul again, by the way. I think that was my first one I think I had 3 blanks in a row, so it was nice to get something again. But anyone who watched the game will know that Salah was inches from from getting 2 more assists. Basically, he was tackled both times, I think it was, and then because the tackle, the same player, Charlie Taylor, comes in, touches the ball off Salah. Salah then therefore doesn't get the last touch, so he hasn't passed or shot. So it's basically, you just can't give him an assist there.
He should have passed to Mane though for that goal.
But I think he was intending to. I think he was. Oh, so, yeah, because there was one where he was going to take a shot. But in both situations, it was like he was inches away from either scoring or assisting, and it could have been massive. And it kind of feels like I've been saying that every week with Salah. Obviously, I'm not going to sell him or anything, and he's obviously going to be very much a captain candidate this week. But it's just there's so many fine margins with Salah, and it was all stacking up, and that's a bit annoying. Rondon obviously coming in was really nice because again I got him in for a couple of really nice games and he hadn't done much, and then obviously came to life in the Everton game. He could have had even more as well if Pickford hadn't saved that penalty. It would have been another assist for Rondon. I benched Barnes, who I've been a big fan of, and I was very lucky to see him not do anything. Mark said to me when he noticed that I benched him, he was like, he is definitely going to score now. So thankfully that didn't happen. And of course Pereira, I mean, Az hasn't really touched on it, but Leicester just can't buy a clean sheet. They're at home against Fulham, and they just let a terrible goal in like that. So it was, there was good bits, like having Mane and Rondon was good, but there were other bits that just kind of make it go a bit there. Like Pogba playing number 10 again for Man United in a game that was another weird one. Like that was not a 2-0 win for Arsenal, in my opinion. It was much closer than it suggested. Pogba was in and about. Man United hit the bar, so very close with him. It was it was very close to a good game week. In the end, it was just kind of an all right one. So,
I think it was one of those game weeks. There was kind of game week defining players and moves. Sterling obviously was the key one. If you had him, and even better if you captained him, that's it. Just game week over. You've done a great job. Go and have a nice cup of tea and a lie down. But if you didn't have those types of players, then you're just scrabbling around really. So my team's an example of that. I'm behind you there with 47, so I think that's average or just 1 point below. And given the team I had, I think I would have made the same moves again. So I actually made a successful transfer. I made a rare early transfer because I was going to lose a two-way value, and I was also needed to do it because I didn't need to do it, but I was doing that transfer because I could, because there was none of my players, not a single one of them was playing midweek, so the risk was really low. So in contrast to this week, I'm not making any early moves, and this is something I'm not keen on at all, as I've said many times on Scoutcast. So I'm not keen on making early moves when there's midweek games or internationals, and I'm going to leave it right to the end because I don't want to risk any injuries there from many of my players that are playing. So Captain Aguero, on paper I still think he was the best captaincy choice. 10 goals and 2 hat-tricks versus Watford in 6 games. I think obviously Sterling was a really good option as well, and I was on the Breakfast Club with Josh and Brandon from Always Cheating podcasts, and thanks again if they're listening for dropping by. It was great fun to do that. I think it was Josh had Sterling as his captain, and Brandon had Salah, and I was saying Sterling was the better option there, but I thought that Aguero was the better one. Turns out it's just Sterling. Jimenez, a few of us played them. I did see him on a lot of benches as well. People were saying that we were a bit mad for bigging up Wolves against Chelsea, but Jimenez has a track record out of 8 league encounters with top 6 sides. Wolves have 3 draws, 2 wins, 3 losses, and in 8 of those games Jimenez has delivered attacking returns on 5 occasions. So basically, the worse the fixture, the better Jimenez's chances. Just play him. And so I look at that, and I don't know, onwards and upwards. And I've got some tough decisions to come. But before we come to that and many more issues for Game Week 31, Luke side, you are, I believe, just below me there, 45, so very similar there. Now, the thing I want to ask you about, because Mane versus Salah, all season you've been championing Mane, and there he is with all those points, then you captain Salah that time. So that must be a bit of a disappointment.
Yeah, it's pretty disappointing. Although, to be fair, it's the first time I've got captain points from Salah. It just wasn't anywhere near enough yet again. I should have gone with Mane. Everyone was saying go with Mane. I thought I'll be different and go with Salah, even though it wasn't different. Didn't work out as
I know the feeling so well.
Yeah, well, I'm languishing. I've pretty much given up this season now. I'm only barely in the top 500,000. It's been awful, but I just didn't have Sterling was the bottom line. To offset that, I had him in Sky and I had him as captain, and he got something ridiculous like 55 or 56 points or something. He got man of the match and took me near to the top 100. So I was celebrating for that game really, and I wanted him to keep scoring, but it is painful when obviously in FPL you don't have him. But yeah, I'm not going to rabbit on too long. Basically, Jimenez is the only one who scored me any points apart from Salah and Mane. Everyone else in my team blanked. So cheers, lads. Keep it up.
Yeah, well, no, it's fine. You're in good company. Well, bad company, however you want to. But so there's lots of us with similar scores this week. Very polarising week. Have we got some rough with the smooths to make us feel better or worse?
Yeah, it was one of those weeks, wasn't it? There's a few key players, like you said, Joe, and if you didn't have them, then you had a bad week. I mean, looking at the rough with the smooths this week and looking at Twitter, seemed to be in general quite a good week for the community. If you had a bad week, you still kind of probably got a little green arrow just above the average. I think quite a lot of the kind of highly owned players like Jimenez and Mane sort of did well. Smooths, quite a few smooths, people captaining various players who did well. Mane, Vardy, quite a few people in the 100 club, so quite a few over 100s, which was always impressive in a single game week. So Tom Saints, MMN, Glenn Fiddich, Crocoster, and a shout out to Jarvis who got 99, so just missed out. If you get 100 points, you're always going to be laughing. Another smooth goes to Jay, who's having a pretty rough season like me. Last week he took Aguero out for a hit and brought in Sterling, kind of raised a few eyebrows. Ooh. This week captain Sterling, hat-trick, so he's still got a bit of magic left in him.
He has still, even though he had having a bad season, he does offer magic advice. I remember early in the season he got Troy Deeney in and people were trying to laugh him off Twitter, but he got Troy Deeney in ahead of one of those Troy Deeney series of games where he just scores loads. Still got
how he's still got Sergio Rico in goal though. No. I still can't understand, but
even his magic can't make Rico good.
I was saying earlier, it's going to be typical. He'll free hit probably next week and then take Rico out, and Rico will get like 20 points, save a couple of penalties. So only one truly rough, really. FPL Elephant, he has a bet with his wife every game week as to whoever gets the lowest score has to take the other person out for dinner. He got 48 points, and his wife doubled that. Wow. So he's got to take her out for a nice steak dinner. So
nice. Oh no.
I know.
That sounds awful.
But he's got to pay.
Wow.
That's it. Everyone else did quite well, except for you lot. Everyone's scoring around the average, even the kind of worst people. So the worst scores. So yeah, I think a pretty decent week overall.
I think it was a good week to have an average week.
Yeah, I think so.
I got my red arrow was looking awful on Saturday. But on Sunday,
where are you now, Joe? Am I anywhere near you?
I'm still in the top 50k. So I'm just I'm fluctuating between kind of 10k and 50k. Hopefully I can just stay within that. Really.
A bit like Granville Mark a few years ago when Mark was well behind Granville and then he came back and pipped him in the last few game weeks. That's what I want to do to you. I don't want you to beat me.
Right, blimey. Okay. Well, let's move on to look at the community questions. This week we're going to just focus on game week 31 and those kind of and the fixtures that remain. There's just 5 fixtures there, so just 10 teams playing. What we're going to do is we're going to break it down, and each one of us is going to take these sections: goalkeeper, defenders, midfielders, and forwards. I'm going to go first with goalkeepers because I'm a fairly dull manager, and they're the dullest of all the positions. It also frees me up with more time to move pictures around the screens and enliven the Scoutcast, no doubt, visually. So what we're going to do is I'm going to get a picture up. This is the guy I really like, but a lot of people like the other guy, and the other guy is Fabianski. And we've got lots of questions about these two. So it's Boric for Bournemouth is the picture I've got up. Ian Davis asks, are Bournemouth and West Ham the best place to go shopping for cheap keepers? Is the West Ham defence to be trusted? And the same perhaps could be applied to the Bournemouth defence. Andy Penman asks, can Boric be trusted? A lot of trust issues here with goalkeepers for a clean sheet, given the patched up Newcastle, given patched up Newcastle team. So he's indicating there, but Newcastle's defence is a bit patched up, so a lot of the action could be at the other end of the pitch. So could be avoided there. And Abdullah and Pakistan FPL, is it worth taking a hit to bring in a goalkeeper? So we'll come to you first, Luke. What's your thoughts on goalkeepers? Is there just a standout option for you, or would you recommend anyone else?
No, and yeah, Boric and Fabianski are the two that scream out at me, just simply because they play in 33 as well. I wouldn't be overly confident of keeping a clean sheet, but I think they're up there with the best chance from that small bunch that we've got. And considering, I think one of the questions there was take a hit for them. So basically, it's what, two points really if you've got no one playing in goal. And then Fabianski, I think he's, for example, returned 3 points like as the most consistent score throughout the whole season. So let's say he gets 3 points. You're basically gambling 1 point on the chance that he might get a clean sheet and bonus 6 or 8. I mean, I'd take that every time personally, especially as it sets you up for 33 as well. I do slightly prefer Boric just for those 2 games, but I prefer Fabianski overall just because of his saves, and I think he's a better goalkeeper than Boric. But I mean, clean sheets are, I think last week, Cardiff got a clean sheet, which no one expected. Mm-hmm. Bournemouth got a clean sheet. I did say they were pretty good defensive, so you could have kind of expected that, but they were away, and they are sometimes a bit dodgy. And it was only Huddersfield, and Arsenal got a clean sheet. No one else got a clean sheet, and we're seeing this quite a lot. I mean, apart from Liverpool, who I know failed in this time, but that's rare for them. I mean, you're not seeing too many clean sheets, so just pay these dirt cheap prices for defenders at the moment. And Bournemouth and West Ham, they both offer that. So yeah, why not roll the dice for tiny few little points?
So Boric and Fabianski there. David, what about you? Are these the 2 standout options, or anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, that's we had an article on this on the website today. Actually, it goes into more detail than we'll be able to squeeze in this particular section, but it does largely tell the same story. Yeah, it's Fabianski and Boric generally look the best. I can understand why there's trust issues with the West Ham defence, but I think that the main reason why he's going to be I think he's going to be the best one to own this week is mainly because it's Huddersfield away. So last 4 game weeks, Huddersfield are bottom of the league for. Are you ready for this? Yeah. Basically everything, attacking-wise. They're bottom for big chances total with 2. They're bottom for goal conversion rate, 3.1%. They are bottom for shots inside the box with 15. They are bottom for shots on target with 9. So, you get the picture. They're bottom for touches in the penalty box as well, 52. So they're just bottom for everything that you need to score goals. So if there's going to be one game where the West Ham defence actually does as it's told, it should be this one. So, I mean, that's good news. The thing is with Fabianski, a lot of us have him already. So I think he's owned by something like 47% of the top 10K. He's owned by about 20% overall teams. And obviously that'll be skewed by the fact that a lot of people aren't playing anymore. So in terms of live ownership, I'd imagine it's quite high as well. So it's quite nice for a lot of us because you don't have to do anything. So obviously I'm in a position where I'm not going to play the free hit this week. I have Fabianski. He's the obvious one to go for. But if I was playing the free hit, then I would definitely have Boric as second choice, mainly just because of that price. He's the only 4 million goalkeeper is going to play. And, if you're kind of trying to chase up some ground, then maybe starting him ahead of Fabianski could work out, just simply because we've talked about before, when you're trying to make up ground and there's consensus on a certain decision, going against it sometimes can be profitable if that player doesn't deliver. So let's say that Fabianski doesn't get the clean sheet and you've started Boric and he does. Then actually that could make you, 6 or 7 points perhaps. And Bournemouth's defence we discussed is quite good. The only thing on Newcastle, interestingly enough, last 4 game weeks, nobody's had more shots inside the box than Newcastle, which is just mad. I mean, you wouldn't have believed that.
Have those games largely been at home?
Three of those 4 games have been at home, right. 24 shots on target as well. So, I mean, that is obviously a factor. But we were just talking about Rondon the other day. He'd had more shots away from home at West Ham than he did in 2 of those 3 home games. Mm. So there is a good chance that Newcastle can still do well. And this is why, if I'm just going to be a dullard, I'm going to start Fabianski because I do think that Newcastle could get through Bournemouth. And just on the idea that Newcastle a bit patched up, obviously that's their defence. That I don't think that's necessarily going to be an issue because I think that they will. They seem to be holding possession further up the pitch quite nicely. I actually think that could be quite a high-scoring game personally. So whereas I feel like West Ham Huddersfield is just going to be I feel that's just going to be routine. It's quite an easy decision. The only one other just to mention is just Alisson, because obviously Liverpool are just ridiculously good at keeping clean sheets. But of course, if you do that, then it means you can only have 2 outfield players. So, again, potentially a differential decision. We're at that stage where people might have to start going against the consensus. So it's just worth pointing out that he's if you're free hitting, he's more likely to be a free hit signing than just a straight up one.
And Az, did you have anything to add? You're a Fabianski man, I believe. So you're.
I'm a both man. I've got them both.
Oh, hello.
I know.
Well, this is interesting. So which one are you going to go for then?
Well, I think it's actually quite easy. If you got them both, you go Fabianski this week at home to Huddersfield, then you go Boric in 33.
Oh, very well planned. That's annoyingly well planned, isn't it?
It is. It kind of fell into place. Well, I had Edison a few weeks ago, if you remember, and I used a transfer just to downgrade him to Boric, and it's actually looking like quite a good move because it freed up some money, so I was able to get Mane. But Man City haven't been didn't keep a clean sheet, and Bournemouth have got the nice fixtures. Yeah, I'm quite happy. I mean, West Ham are absolutely awful away from home. 56 attempts against them in the last 4, but at home they're actually fairly decent with only 26. So they're much better at home, than they are away defensively. So you got to think a clean sheet's going to be pretty likely. Yeah. But then they've got Chelsea in Gameweek 33.
Yeah,
so
that's no good, is it?
For me, and they're away, so I mean they're not going to get anything there. So I think if you want a free hit, you get Fabianski. Yeah. If you're just using a transfer to bring in a goalkeeper, you get Boric.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, just to wrap this section up, I think people need to think in terms of game weeks 31 and 33, because a lot of these teams obviously play in those and they escape the blanks. And you've got to assess, do you have a keeper? So I have 2 keepers, potentially. Well, I have one. It's confusing. I've got Foster and Guaita for game week 33. And the way the FA Cup goes, one of them will definitely play. So whatever happens in the FA Cup, I will have a goalkeeper. So I'm currently going into game week 31 with no goalkeeper. So I have to assess, do I want to take a hit to get a goalkeeper in for one game week? And I'm not sure I do. And so I'm at maximum, I'm going to go for 10 players.
It's a blatant yes for Fabianski every day of the week.
Though, Fabianski is not
save some money.
But the Chelsea game, and he knows that he definitely has one goalkeeper for 33.
I've definitely got a goalkeeper game week 33.
Yeah, but as I said before,
he could end up sending the wrong one.
Okay. So sorry, do you only need the goalkeeper for this game week 31, Joe? Yeah.
Yes.
Right, so you're not willing to gamble 2 points on the fact that Huddersfield have only scored 8 goals all season.
Well, the thing is, the goalkeeper. So I'd be taking a hit. So Fabianski against that awful attack for Huddersfield is not going to get any save points. So because he's not going to get any save points, he's not going to get any bonuses.
I wouldn't be so sure because their players are pretty bad. I still think they'll keep a clean sheet.
Yeah, I think he'll get.
No, he'll get a clean sheet, but he'll get 6 points, and so I'll make 2 points.
Yeah, but it's just 2 points. If it goes wrong, it's
I'm not terribly excited about that, but also I'd actually be more. But then, as pointed out, I could be taking out the wrong keeper. Do I take out Foster or Guaita? And then is that the wrong one? And then I'm perhaps left with Fabianski.
Right. Okay, that makes
against
more sense.
Chelsea.
Okay, fair enough.
Whereas it's confusing. People don't want to know about that. But what
I'd do Guaita to Boric.
Goalkeeper transfers. We love
goalkeeper transfers. But lots of people are making them. And weirdly, on the Breakfast Club with Josh and Brandon, they both made goalkeeper transfers. So it is very in vogue at the moment.
Well, they could join Monday Club.
But yeah, looking at game week 31 in isolation, Fabianski has a better chance for a clean sheet. Obviously, last 4 away, Newcastle have an XG of 2.41. I think you highlighted that. And they've scored 2 goals, while Huddersfield is half that, and they've scored no goals. So in a way, they're underperforming. They should have scored a goal. In terms of the last 4 at home, Bournemouth and West Ham have both conceded twice and have both conceded 4 big chances. But obviously, looking at that opposition there, Fabianski's good. I think people will probably want us to wind up about goalkeepers there, but I think hopefully we've answered those questions. We want to move on to defenders now. Luke is handling this section, and I understand that one of the questions involves really backing the West Ham backline with a defensive double up. So, Luke, what have the community been asking us about Game Week 31 defenders?
Yeah, okay. So first question comes from Lots on Chelsea. Oh, sorry, wait, that's not right. Is it just Tom, Lots on Chelsea? I've written it there. I think it's just
there are lots of questions on Chelsea.
I'm with you. Okay,
For
so
example,
Tom and there's
Tom.
lots of people.
I thought his name was Lots on Chelsea.
If someone's out there, they should call themselves that. Lots on Chelsea.
Okay, so he basically says at 5.2 million, is Emerson a great value route into the Chelsea backline, or is it worth spending some extra cash on Luiz or Azpilicueta? Andy asks if it's worth taking out a useless defender who plays in game week 31 like Schindler. Oh, it's a bit harsh on Schindler. And swap for a Chelsea defender. So even though he's got a playing player, just get rid of him because he doesn't think he's going to get anything and go for Chelsea. And Matic says, is it better to double up on Chelsea defence rather than their attack in this game week? So, yeah, like you say, lots on Chelsea. And then the rumour mill asking whether looking at West Ham double up or even a triple up, some of us adding Fabianski and then adding maybe two of their defenders and just going all eggs in basket on the clean sheet. Is that a good idea? Those on a free hit this week will have looked at that, I'm sure. And then Davidoff says, which defenders are worth taking a hit for, specifically for those of us that are targeting them for game week 31 and 33 in mind. So, David, I'll go to you first. Lots of questions there. Do you like Chelsea? And also, do you like West Ham maybe for the triple or double?
Yeah, Chelsea really don't stand out to me too much. I mean, I think I'm very much, I don't want to say on my own, but I think I'm against the consensus when I say that Chelsea across the board, they don't really excite me all that much for this particular blank game week because they haven't really passed the eye test for me in a lot of their most recent games. I mean, from a defensive perspective, the Wolves game, I think Wolves had one shot in the box all game and that went in. And that just kind of feels like what Chelsea are capable of. It's away from home, so, they might do better there because they're not going to have the same level of criticism from the home crowd that they're getting quite a lot. But I feel like there's goals for both teams in that game. If I'm free hitting, I'm more likely to get one just to kind of cover myself off because I think if you're free hitting and there's not too many teams that you look at that fixture list and think, oh, I'm confident of a clean sheet. So getting a Chelsea defender seems like a good idea. Emerson, I kind of like the idea behind because obviously he seems to have he started the last two. Alonso's not been in the matchday squad for either. So I think, there's a case to be made that he is, the starting defender now. You can obviously double check that with the Europa League game on Thursday. If Alonso starts that, then I think that's pretty certain that Emerson's going to play. And that seems kind of, like a nice idea for a 5.2 defender in a top six defence. Obviously the alternatives, Luiz and Azpilicueta, maybe. The thing that kind of puts me off is just that basically Chelsea are quite weak down their right flank, and I'm going to talk a little bit later about Lucas Digne. I actually think there's a possibility that him and Richarlison might actually exploit that. It's crazy. Basically, in the last 4 game weeks, Chelsea have conceded more chances down their right than they have down the middle and the left combined. So there's very much an obvious weakness there, and I actually think that that's where Everton are at their best. So even though they might not necessarily, put bags of goals past them, there seems to be a little bit of a nice matchup there that could.
I like that as a Dino now.
Yeah, put Chelsea kind of in a situation where I don't really trust their clean sheet. So to contrast that with West Ham, where we've just talked about how awful Huddersfield are, we've got an article coming tomorrow on the best defenders, and already some of the ones that are standing out to me are Ogbonna, Diop, people like that. This is if you're free hitting really, because if you're looking for nice cheap budget players to help you spend the big bucks in the other positions, which as we're going to come on to in a minute, there's lots of them at all very high prices. Something like that could work out really well. If you get a triple up on West Ham, a combined cost of probably just a little bit over 12 million, that's incredible. Obviously, if West Ham screw it up, which they could, as they have in easy games before, then it doesn't look great. But if I'm free hitting, then I'm having at least 2 West Ham defensive players and maybe a third one. So I think just generally, my if I was free hitting this week, my outlook would be I want to spend as little on defence as I can, just because nothing really inspires me. The only ones that really I think could maybe do well attacking wise, obviously I've just mentioned Digne there. I think he might actually be a nice little bit of a differential if you still got him. Maguire maybe at Leicester because he's great from set pieces and Burnley are pretty poor at defending them. Then the Liverpool ones, that kind of goes without saying. But outside of that, there's just nothing really to inspire. So because the West Ham ones are the cheapest, then I would just go for those alongside a Liverpool one probably cover a Chelsea one, but I wouldn't be expecting loads from him. So it's a tricky one defence this week. Not many things really inspire outside of Liverpool. So
well, I think that's it. It doesn't look like there's going to be many clean sheets this week, as most weeks of late. So yeah, I mean, if it was me and I was on a free hit, I'd be sitting here with double Liverpool, triple West Ham probably, and just go eggs in basket on those two teams, because the Liverpool defence is, you can get Trent for fairly cheap, and then pick either Robertson, Van Dijk, or whoever else plays in the centre in that game. And then go with triple West Ham, super cheap, like I said, and they're the two best chance for clean sheet. I think the highest on the bookies odds as well, by a long way. I think West Ham have got 48% chance or something for a clean sheet. And Liverpool aren't far behind that. Everyone else there's a sort of a big dip, I think, when I was looking last. So yeah, that's what I would personally do. As I'll sort of switch around, because I assume you're probably going to say the same. Someone said there, if you've got a playing defender like Schindler who you don't fancy, would you be interested in taking a hit for someone? Or would you just leave him in and just roll the dice?
I can't understand it. I can't understand. If you've got a playing defender, you're already, above quite a few other people. Why risk it and take hits to be taking out players? If you're lucky enough to have 11 players out and, getting 11 players on the pitch or the fantasy pitch, then, taking a hit. It's like Philip Anderson we're going to talk about in a bit, like people taking him out for hits. Like, just leave him in. He's playing. Better than no one. Yeah, I don't think so. Just on Matej's point, because he says it's better to double up on the Chelsea defence rather than attack. I read that and I grimaced. I was like, oh, God, no, why would you do that? Then I looked at Everton's stats, and at home, they are awful attacking-wise. 26 shots in the box at home over the last 4 weeks, over the last 4 game weeks at home. One attempt more than Huddersfield, and we know how bad Huddersfield are. So, really, I kind of do fancy Chelsea for a clean sheet in that game. I think they're all kind of quite similar in terms of Emerson, Rudiger, Luiz, Azpilicueta. I mean, Luiz is probably the better pick because he's got the free kicks, but none of them are particularly amazing stats-wise. And Emerson's really cheap. So I agree with you, David. I think if Alonso starts, I think Emerson's probably the one I'd go for.
Yeah, it's just that old thing of like the chances of anyone get Emerson it's probably going to be a free hit if you're getting Emerson. I would have thought maybe. So if you're doing the 3 hit, then I think, as we've already discussed, the Liverpool and West Ham just look the more obvious picks. But yeah, I suppose if you're going to cover it,
I'm thinking about Emerson. Because if you've still got all the chips, you're going to be looking to wildcard 34. So you need for 2 weeks. You need for 31 and 33.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Joe.
Cheap. Let's you get some other stuff in.
Yeah, and 5.2 is a good price. You're right. Yeah. Joe, have you got any other thoughts on West Ham doubles, triples, or anyone for 31 and 33?
Yeah, well, before I talk about Chelsea and West Ham, I just wanted to mention about the Liverpool defence. I find there's a lot of recency bias with people's decisions. 2 weeks ago, when Van Dijk and Alexander-Arnold and everyone was racking up huge scores, lots of people were posting their thoughts about their moves and what they were going to do, and it was all about a Liverpool defensive double up. I'm just going to have Salah and Alexander-Arnold Robertson, or Van Dijk and Robertson. Funnily enough, they didn't do much last game week, but all of the attacking players did, especially Mane and Firmino. And now it's all about Mane, Salah and just one defender. And loads of free hit sides I've seen on Twitter for game week 31 have Mane, Salah. So we're going to talk about midfielders shortly, but Mane, Salah and just the one defender. And when we discussed this earlier, I still thought, even though I have gone for Salah, Mane, I still think there's a huge potential for that Liverpool double up. As you say, in a week where clean sheets could be hard to come by. And of course we know with Alexander-Arnold and Van Dijk. So for those that are actually going for that Liverpool defensive double up, I think you're onto a winner there. I wouldn't talk you out of that at all. But
sorry, Joe, I just want to pull you up on the fact that you sounded surprised that there was recency bias on the last week that happened in fantasy.
Yeah, of course. No, I wasn't surprised.
But the last 3 years, that's all they look at last week.
Well, but these are people like us on Twitter within the FPL community, who have their own shows and things like that. They're all doing that, and they're just none of them are considering Mane and Salah at all. And I just found that quite strange.
What's strange to me is how anyone can even consider Salah. If you're looking at last week's points, you can go back about 9 weeks now before he scores. But anyway, carry on.
Definitely. And so back onto the Chelsea double up, I do like that actually. We talked about shields and swords last week. I think a Chelsea defensive double up is a good sword. because people like me will be looking at Game Week 31 and 33, and I look at 31, 32, 33 as a block. I'm going to free hit in Game Week 32, so 31 and 33 are the ones I'm interested in. So I'm looking at the points over those two fixtures, and because Chelsea host West Ham, then I think Azpilicueta is a really good investment for that time. I think he's potential for points away to Everton, and stronger potential Game Week 33. So I think he is good. He's actually in very good form. I think having Higuain there is helping. He's been pushed up further, which is probably why those stats are showing that there's defensive frailty on the right, because he's being pushed up further. But that's not a bad thing for those that own him, because there's the potential for assists there. In fact, the last 5 matches, he has 3 assists, 2 clean sheets and 4 bonus. And that's averaging 5.6 a match. I like those figures for Azpilicueta. Luiz as well in very good form. I do already own him. I'm still awaiting some points for him. But last 5 matches, he's obviously had those 2 clean sheets as well. A goal, though, and a bonus. And he's had 3 double-digit hauls this season. So there's plenty of promise there. Once again, for people, I'm considering that Chelsea defensive double up. And obviously I wouldn't dissuade anyone against that. As well. Looking at attacking defenders, though, if you like your defenders attacking, I had a look the last 4 matches in terms of shots inside the box, and I looked at the top 5, and Maguire and Tarkowski are top with 5. Maguire's had 7 goal attempts actually over the last 4 matches. Maguire, I think, is another player that is being is a great sword for this week for those. No one's mentioning him. But I think Maguire is, if you want that potential, he's not going to get a clean sheet, could get you a goal. And then Alonso is in 3rd. People aren't looking at him because of the rotation fears. And in 4th is David Luiz, so he is in good form there with those 4 shots inside the box. And Van Dijk is just behind him with 3. So on current form, Luiz is, have you look at it, at least on a par, if not better, than Virgil van Dijk in terms of attacking threats, in terms of certainly accuracy there. So my ideal 3 would be, I think, a defensive double up of either Liverpool or Chelsea, and I think the rest is trimmings really. I mean, I think we can argue the toss about whether, Ogbonna or Diop or Maguire, whatever. They're all rubbish. So it's just getting one in. Having said that, I'm actually quite tempted by Rice from West Ham, and that's a strategic shield for myself. Because everyone's going to have Fabianski, West Ham clean sheet, boom, and I'm better stocked up for Game Week 33, so I may not have to play him in Game Week 33. That's the way I look at it. But also he does have himself some attacking threat there, and he could also be a sword against the shield of Fabianski, because of course if Rice gets an attacking return, as he has done, then that's one up on the Fabianski ones, and I'll need that because I'm going to have to spend 4 to get Fabianski or get to tap into the West Ham defence.
Only Joe could have Declan Rice as a sword.
Yeah, I know. I've made him a sword. I've sharpened him, and it was
it's like Captain America's shield, one that you can actually use as a weapon.
Yes, he is. I mean, he's a fantastic asset to the English team, and we're great.
Irish Player of the Year.
We're grateful to have the Irish Player of the Year in the English team. So thanks very much, Ireland. Meanwhile, midfielders, David, what have the community been asking us?
Yeah, well, I think this is probably, it's going to get busier and busier. I think with each position, we end up with more and more questions.
Yeah, this is the meaty one, isn't it?
This is the big one.
So, we're sort of like 40 minutes in, and now it's getting serious, so obviously a lot of it's around Liverpool and Chelsea. So Grayling's asked, can we trust Salah with the armband? Which, we've all been asking for a long time now, 4 or 5 game weeks. Or are Mane, Hazard, and he's mentioned Vardy as potential alternatives as well. A lot of people have been asking about Wolves and Man United players. So obviously we're talking about midfielders here. So Pingisimus, the Rumour Mill and Grayling have all asked, should we cash in players that we have money tied up in? And obviously in this position, that would refer to Pogba, who a lot of people signed around sort of the 8 million mark. I think, Joe, you maybe signed him at 7.8. So
I did, yes.
He's now 8.99 million. So, possibly something like 0.5, 0.6 maybe in profit for some people. So that's a big one because, he's possibly going to be in your free hit at 32. So do you really want to be spending a lot of money getting back in? Fabinho's asking about some of the cheaper ones. So he's got Fraser versus Brooks from the Bournemouth selection. Has the Huddersfield game changed our minds? Obviously, Brooks has been the cheaper option, but Wilson back in, has that reignited Fraser, who, as we talked about the other day, Fraser had no goals or assists whilst Wilson was out with his most recent injury. He comes back and he gets one of each. Then this is one that we've all been thinking for ages. FPL Nick says, is it worth a hit to remove Anderson? Has already kind of let slip what he feels on that subject, but I'm sure we might disagree on that. And then Ishbin Klopp says, best Leicester midfielder assets, which there's a lot of these. So we could have Tielemans, we could have Maddison, we could have Harvey Barnes or Demarai Gray if we think he's going to start. So, I think a lot of options there. I think that particular question probably be more pertinent to the free hit managers, but so let's go back up to the top and talk about the big one, which is your Liverpools and your Chelseas. So let's come to you first, Luke. On the whole, can we trust Salah with the armband thing? A lot of us are going to probably have Salah and Mane. So between those two, the Fulham game, who do you give the captaincy to? And if it's not Salah, should we be looking elsewhere?
The answer is whoever I give the captain armband, give it to the other one. That's the answer. Everything seems to point to Mane in recent times over Salah for me. He's just, you can go through all the stats, you can go through everything, but at the end of the day, the only thing that really matters is FPL points, and Mane has far more than those of Salah of late. So that just overrides everything else for me at the moment. He seems to be the guy that you go to for points. It just seems to be falling his way. Sometimes it happens in football, right, where you go through a period of time where everything just seems to fall for you. And Salah, it's just not falling for him at the moment. But equally, just to kind of sit on the fence a little bit, Salah is the better player. I think everyone could agree that. No one here thinks Mane is a better player than Salah, I don't think. And he, class, you can turn it on at any point. He also has penalties in his locker. I mean, it's not hard to see Salah getting a penalty versus Fulham and a tap-in without even playing well and get a monster haul. And then when you add in the ownership with that, it's like when you've had these Meet the Manager videos, Joe, and I've watched a lot of those. I think there was one, I can't remember which guy it was. One of them said, basically, you play to not lose sometimes on some weeks.
That was Mark Rubinstein. Yes, you right. Play. Yeah, it's not about winning. You're competing against people you don't want to lose against.
And I just think a lot of those top tier managers who finish really high every single season, for me, they'll be captaining Salah this week because they're not going to lose by doing that. His ownership's there. He could easily return, and then they'll just use all the other bits and pieces to try and possibly, slightly be above the average. And that's probably the wise thing to do, if you want to play that kind of style. But
it's a little bit what I've been waiting for. It's because I've still got the triple captain in my locker, waiting for a player like Salah to start losing the confidence of people a bit. Still have good underlying numbers. People starting to go off him, going for other options. I think he's a good triple captain option this week.
Yeah, for the reasons why I said he could easily net a massive haul.
Exactly. Remember game week 16. I'm getting deja vu. Salah's off form. Salah's not doing it. Off he went to Bournemouth.
I sold him a week or so before.
And I've seen people on Fantasy Football Scout and on Twitter this week saying, quite proudly saying they've sold Salah this week, and they're not even on a free hit.
Yeah, that's madness.
That is madness.
Yeah, that's madness, in my opinion. I don't know. Those people, by the way, that the managers do really, really well, that there's always going to be that one person for one individual season or over 10 seasons who will make those right captain calls. And he may go for a Mane and they get 2 or 3, and maybe they do really well that season. But over the course of 10, they're not matching these guys. So I just think I can see both sides with Salah. I don't have any reason to back Hazard or Chelsea at all. Like David, I just don't think they're firing at all. I think Hazard's not been right for a long time. I know he's been dripping points every now and then, but for his price, I'm not a fan really at the moment at all.
I can see that. I mean, just one thing that we picked out in the scout notes for that Wolves game. Obviously, he was the hero. The moment was his. The incredible goal. Can't fault the goal, and I still think he's a great player. But he had one shot in the whole game. It was that. His XG for the game was 0.02. So he is just not in the kind of form that's going to make me want to captain him away at Everton. It's just not the kind of game I want to do it. I'm glad you've raised the triple captain thing there, Az, because a lot of people are thinking about doing that. This is just my hunch, but I feel that Mark might play the triple captain this week, maybe. Just because looking at his squad, I don't know if he's free hitting or not. He seems somewhere halfway between a free hit sort of situation or maybe take a hit to do the game to bring it up. So I feel like he might go for it. I don't know. But Joe, you've obviously got some. I know you've been talking a lot on Twitter this week about comparisons of Salah and Mane when it's away from home. I mean, obviously go through those, but do you think that what you're seeing from Salah away from home is triple captain worthy?
No, but what am I seeing for Fulham at home is triple captain worthy?
Yeah.
Then the answer is yes. For me, Salah is the better captaincy option over Mane this week, and it's all about home and away form. This is something I do urge people to have a listen to the podcast or watch the video that me and David did earlier in the week that looked at this. Last 4 away matches, Salah has had 10 shots, 7 in the box, 6 on target. Mane has had 3 shots, 3 in the box and just 2 on target. While at home, the last 4, Salah 18 shots, 9 in the box, 6 on target. Mane 15 shots, 14 in the box and 6 on target. When people are saying Mane is in great form, he is in great form at home. He is not in great form away from home, nor indeed is Salah. But it's Fulham. And as you said, Fulham's defence is a special case. There was the Premier League put up a clip today of, I think it was some anniversary of the game between Chelsea and Derby where Frank Lampard scored 4 goals. And it's those kinds of defences. Remember Villa, Sunderland, Fulham are in that group. They are just, they're not even champions. They're League One level defence. Even my
offensive to League One team. Joe.
Yeah, it's a League One team. League One defence, definitely, but with Mitrovic. And so I think the Fulham defence is so bad. I think it's, I think Salah is actually a triple captaincy shout. I'm a bit wary myself though. For me, I just wanted to pull up this one about because I can answer a lot of these questions with my team as well because it all hinges around. So I'm not well stocked up for this game week. So the question around Anderson and cashing in on players like Pogba are closely tied with whether I want to get Hazard in. And it may well be for other managers maybe facing those choices. So if I decide I want Hazard, then one of Anderson or Pogba has to go. If Anderson goes, I could potentially be missing a haul. I doubt it. I could be potentially missing 4 points. If Pogba goes, then I'm going to have to spend $500,000 more because I got him for 7.8 to get him back on my free hit in double game week 32, which I will want to do. I did a mock-up game week 32, so I just assuming various big heavy hitters would be playing and things like that, and I'm going to need every penny. So Pogba's going to stay. But do I want Hazard? Maybe I do. Hazard last 4 away, 12 shots, 9 in the box, 4 on target, but just 1 assist. So he's been underperforming. He could do some damage there. But if I don't go for him, it's between Maddison and Fraser. And I'm minded to get Fraser. Now I'm putting up a heat map of Fraser and Wilson up here. And as you can see from this, they've got a fantastic partnership, almost as if they're the same player. Almost, and Fraser pointing out Wilson and Wilson pointing out Fraser. They both know exactly where each other are. So I've also compared some stats with Fraser and Wilson playing. Fraser game weeks 1 to 15 and game weeks 18 to 21. That's when Wilson played as well. And I compared that with game weeks 24 to 29 when Wilson didn't. And goal attempts down. And this is the key one, chances created. They went from 2.6 a game whenever Wilson's on the pitch to when Wilson isn't on the pitch with him, barely 1, 0.8. And in game week 30, Fraser actually had 3 chances, so he's up there. So we can see that there, and and hopefully that heat map really explains it quite nicely.
I think one of my moves is going to be to get one of those two, Fraser or Wilson. I just wanted to go back on, because obviously I'm not hugely inspired by Hazard, and it doesn't sound like you are either. But you're still weighing it up, and I am too. And I think I remember it being discussed on, again, last year's podcast for pretty much exactly the same type of game week. When you're looking at players you're going to sign if you're not playing the free hit, to what extent do you factor in the fact that you think that player will probably be in most free hit squads when you make your transfer? Because I think if I get Hazard, it will be because I assume he's going to be on a lot of those free hits. again, recency bias. He scored that goal, against Wolves. So then that's just going to fuel that even more.
You're dealing with such a small pool of players, though, that like you can't not get Hazard just because you're worried about other people having him. Like there aren't many standout midfielders this week anyway. I think you can be clever with some of the players you bring in around the side, but I think you kind of need Salah, Mane, Hazard. I think I can't see a way you're going to have a good week without having those three, because you can make some other good decisions and then you don't get one of those, and then the whole thing's undone if they get a brace or something. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be comfortable going. I mean, Everton aren't good. I think Hazard's a really good pick this week, even though his stats aren't that great. I think you may, as I said, I think you make up the other picks with your players around the side. I mean, you go for someone like Snodgrass or Lanzini over someone like Anderson, who's going to be really highly owned. You get Maddison in or Barnes, maybe not instead of Vardy, but alongside Vardy to kind of cover him. Here's one for you. I really like Loftus-Cheek this week.
Yeah, great shout actually. Yeah.
And if you're free hitting and you need a cheap player, I think he's going to start. I think he's going to be chomping at the bit to do well. I think Everton, as I said earlier, defensive wise aren't that great.
The Magic Bean is back. And
the Magic Bean is back.
He's an even bigger Magic Bean this time.
I've got no stats to support it. I've got no minutes to support.
Be honest, no one's ever had anything to support getting Loftus-Cheek in.
It's all eye test, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's justified eye test because you compare him with Kovacic was rubbish against Wolves. Yeah. Barkley's been so kind of like meh, But Loftus-Cheek, whenever he comes on, he does add something to the game, and he did against Wolves. So
yeah, I think he has to start. So
he's a punt.
Yeah, but Sarri, it takes a long time to adjust to player form. I mean, look at Alonso. I wouldn't be so sure he'll start.
Look at Jorginho.
Well, exactly. I just think it takes him a long time to adjust to player form. Apart from someone like Higuain, who's obviously his boy and he's come in. Apart from that, he's just sort of picked the same players, and like people have been telling him they're rubbish for ages, and eventually he sort of gets around to changing them. So I don't know about that one. Plus, he's probably only like to play 60, 70 minutes. But if you're free hitting, why not?
That's what I mean. If you're looking for just a 1 week punt to
handy enough, you got Europa League as well. So if he doesn't start that, then that would suggest he's going to start the league game. And if he does start the Europa League game, then and say Kovacic and Barkley don't, then that just nips that in the bud, and then you don't do it. So the Europa League is as helpful as it's ever been this particular game.
I think Barnes and Tillmans are really interesting picks as well. I mean, they've just been playing so well when I watch them play. I mean, I haven't watched that much of Tillmans, but he seems to be picking up assists all over the place. And Barnes is getting man of the match in Sky nearly every time he graces the field. So I think there's big potential there. Maybe not in this game, but they always look good on the pitch. So it's going to come. Yeah. Barnes is going to get a haul eventually.
He is. I mean, his underlying stats and heat map and things are amazing.
I mean, with Leicester, I think just on those options, I think their match this week kind of looks all right-ish. So Burnley are capable of being quite organised. And we were saying on the captain video that Vardy, for example, could score in this game, but really I'm not expecting any more than 6 points just because it's Burnley and they will play a relatively organised, tight back four. It doesn't mean it's necessarily good. It just means there won't be that much space. But then game week 33, I actually think the Leicester options obviously are a lot more exciting because that's away at Huddersfield. So I'd be more excited about, if it's kind of like a tie between something like a Bournemouth midfielder and a Leicester one for this week. I think I'd go Bournemouth this week. And then if I've got another move I can make, I think I'd probably get the Leicester midfielder in for 33. I think that feels like a more exciting fixture.
But Burnley are pretty bad with set pieces, aren't they? They concede a lot.
I mean, that's true.
And Fraser is Mr. Set Piece at Bournemouth.
Yeah. So. The only thing I'll say on the Wilson loving, I appreciate he has been great when they've played together, but it was Huddersfield last week. So it's like he couldn't have asked for a better game to be his comeback. Yeah, and it might be that Bournemouth have just gone off in form.
Does very well against Huddersfield as well. I feel like he has a very good scoring record.
But also it was those stats I read out. That's what happens every match where with Wilson and Fraser they link up.
I agree, but it could just be that Bournemouth were playing well as well at that point, and then Bournemouth could have tailed off, and they've come back against Huddersfield. It was
there
great.
Was a beach theory, isn't there?
Don't get me wrong. I think Wilson's a great pick. I'm just adding a small caveat that it was Huddersfield.
Yeah.
And also with the Newcastle thing, we've been saying they've been doing really well recently, but a lot of their games, they've had some pretty good games and amongst that run. I think Burnley, Huddersfield themselves, a few other people. So their stats are going to naturally bump up a little bit.
We have, and as I point out, they've been at home as well, so they haven't been away. And I remember before Newcastle went to Liverpool, people were saying the same thing. Newcastle in great form. And I remember we were saying it, David, on the captaincy video around that time. But if you look at their away matches against top sides, they're actually awful. And it seemed to be a surprise that Liverpool completely annihilated them. But Bournemouth obviously are not in that tier as well. So yeah, I think it could be definitely goals.
Longstaff's going to be a miss for Newcastle.
Although they've got Key and they've got Shelvey coming back, and I know they were 2-0 down against Everton and then had to come from behind. So I know that Longstaff's a loss, but if they can get Key and Shelvey kind of back to what is their best game, and they play quite well together as well, although obviously Hayden's in the picture too, they've definitely got options who can come in for Longstaff, because I know there's a lot of Newcastle fans who think he's the best young midfielder, but I know some West Ham fans will probably disagree on that because there's an Irishman who has been outshining him. But I still think that Newcastle aren't as kind of like below par in terms of personnel as kind of looks obvious to start with. So yeah, I don't think Newcastle will roll over there, but I still think Bournemouth will score.
David, before we move on to forwards, what would be your top 4 midfielders for Gameweek 31? Assume you're free hitting.
Yeah. So if I'm free hitting, I mean, obviously we've also got in the notes here about kind of this. It kind of hinges on the question of, with Liverpool, do you double up in midfield or you double up in defence? I think obviously you've mentioned the advantage of doubling up in defence. I still think that doubling up in midfield is the way to go. It's Fulham's defence. I think that just Fulham's defence is clearly what they're worst at. They are still capable of scoring. They're not incredible, but for this particular game, I can't really look past Salah and Mane. They're just the obvious ones for me in terms of either what they've offered in terms of their underlying data or with Mane, the form. Then outside of that, I'd probably say Fraser. And then for the fourth one, I think I would say Hazard. And I don't want to say Hazard. Because just looking at so many of the data doesn't support them. I mean, one other thing was in the last 4 away matches, their goal conversion rate, it's the second worst in the division. Only Huddersfield have a lower one. So there's every possibility that Chelsea could go there and do nothing. But it's just, I feel like he's going to be a player that everybody has.
It's a strategy thing.
It's just to cover that base because Hazard is capable of completely, looking at his stats from the last 4 game weeks, and Chelsea are too. They're such an enigmatic team. They can play awful over the last 4 game weeks away from home.
My ears are bleeding on the fact that you'd pick him based on that criteria.
I know, but it is 1 game week,
but
and
it's playing the game, isn't it?
Yeah,
not getting playing beat. The game, but that sucks.
So for me, Salah, but the thing is, if you combine that with, I think Salah and Mane will haul. I'd be very surprised if they don't. I think Fraser will as well. So then I've got 3 players there who I think I'm quite confident of points, and then Hazard could get me points, and if he does, he's a shield just to kind of help me just stay afloat. And as we were saying, what Mark Rubenstein says, it helps me not lose in that situation.
Justifying dullard picks by calling them a shield. That's all.
That's good. That's why we did it last week.
I'll tell you who's the shield that you guys have missed off. Felipe Anderson is making his comeback in this game. He's highly owned. He's at home to Huddersfield, and he's a class player. You watch.
So Luke,
you're a wooden shield in a house fire.
So Luke, who's your top 4 quickly? Your top 4 midfielders, if you were free hitting.
Well, to be honest, I don't think there's anything between Fraser and Brooks. So one of those two, definitely. I'd probably have Mane. I'd reluctantly maybe have Salah, but I actually prefer the defensive double up. So possibly not. And then there'd be a West Ham and a Leicester midfielder.
So no Chelsea there for you. Not a lot of love for Hazard. You're certainly putting me off Hazard. I don't know whether it's a ruse.
Maybe Barnes and Lanzini or Felipe Anderson if it was on a free. If it was on a free hit, it would be like I said. I'd go for the peripheral ones like a Lanzini and a Barnes because I just feel
very sword based.
So low. Yeah.
And Az, what about you? Your top 4 midfielders?
Salah, Mane, obviously Hazard because. Not for what David's saying. I think Everton are rubbish. I think Hazard's on penalties. He's their main man.
Hang on a minute. Last
Yeah,
week,
I was going to say, what about last week?
Last week we were all saying Everton were rubbish, and you were on the live chat having a go at us about it, saying they were
Yeah, no,
absolutely
they let me down,
amazing.
didn't they? So now I'm against them.
You're so fickle.
Recency bias.
Recency bias. Oh my god.
Absolutely. Well, I think Chelsea are going to win that game, and if Chelsea have any chance of winning any game, Hazard's going to do something.
Okay.
So, I think Hazard's a really strong pick, and actually Fraser would probably be next. Would be on the list with him, but I think for the reason Luke said, I don't think Fraser he's been so off form for ages. Wilson's been injured; he's had an excuse. Fraser's just been rubbish for so long. He's come on against Huddersfield, done well. Anyone could do that. So I wouldn't go for him. I'd have Salah, Mane, Hazard, and then I'd have a Leicester mid. And I think I'd probably lean towards Maddison based on the fact he's playing very advanced now. I think Rodgers really likes him. He's trying to get the most out of him. And he's just creating chance after chance after chance for Vardy. So I think Vardy and Maddison double up is really good.
I must admit, for me, my particular position, I've got to have a mixture of those kind of attack differentials and also protecting. I've already got Mane and Salah. They're staying. And I am very tempted, and I've got Anderson as well, so he's probably going to stay annoyingly. So it's going to be one of Fraser or Maddison, I think, and I am undecided. Burnley's concession of set pieces leans it towards Maddison there, because I'm very keen on Wilson, which is a good segue to talk about forwards. So, Az, this is your section. What the community have been asking us.
It is indeed. Let me just find. I wasn't expecting you to come to me so quickly. I thought you were going to go on about your four selections.
No, I was quick.
It was too fast, mate. The pen man says, despite Burnley's recent defeats to Palace, Newcastle, and Liverpool, are their attacking assets to be trusted? Spoiler: yes. Ashley Barnes, great option this week. Verbino, King or Wilson? Good question. Wilson passed the eye test against Huddersfield and delivered, but King still has the underlying statistics. And the rumour mill says, is a Fraser and Wilson double up worth doing? And Grayling says, are we overlooking Firmino and Higuain? Luke's not overlooking Higuain. And Copite says, Higuain and Vardy are similarly priced. Who's the best to go for? So let's talk about Ashley Barnes. Joe, you love Ashley Barnes.
I love Ashley. We all do.
You got Ashley Barnes. Sorry, David.
First, come on.
Yeah, look, I mean, no, I don't know. I mean, I've loved him since he played for my lovely team, Brighton, and he's been good there. But yeah, David, you go first on this one. I'll come to me a bit later.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm having Ashley Barnes because why would he leave my team when he's been there for so long? I think it's 5 goals in 7 games. He when he's been playing. So basically, before that particular Liverpool game, he was the only player who had more shots on target than him in the 4 matches before that. Was so the one before that was Aguero. So he spent ages. He spent 4 or 5 game weeks where the only one who had more shots on target than him was Aguero. He was keeping fantastic company with other premium options. Was delivering as well. I mean that's something that you were talking about in the captain video the other day, Joe. Was that not only were his underlying statistics good, he was delivering as well.
Yes.
So at the price that he's at, then he just seems like a no-brainer because he's probably one of the cheaper of the budget forwards, but he's been more reliable than most of them. So, and of course, Leicester's defence. I mean,
I was going to say, David, he plays against Pereira. That's all you needed to say because I think we all know he's not got points in. So yeah, that's it. He plays against Pereira. No chance Pereira gets any points.
Exactly. So and. We've had a few people ask about penalty. The penalty question might come up with him, I guess, in the next couple of days. Just some clarification on that. He has taken some penalties, but Chris Wood did an interview about 3 weeks ago saying that they have a policy at Burnley that you win it, you take it. So he's not completely nailed on for penalties, but obviously in the last sort of few game weeks he's won a few, so that's why he's taken them. So. He's not off penalties. He's not on penalties, but he certainly stands a chance of taking one. So there's just so much to like about him. Love the guy. And just a shout, he's played for Plymouth Argyle as well. So he means people down my way as well. So
been round the block.
He's been everywhere.
Yes, and Austria, obviously. Okay, I'm on.
Obviously, I'm dying to hear.
Right. Okay. Well, let's just add a little bit more into the Barnes mix. If I was
going, never have too much Barnes.
My 3 strikers, if I was free hitting this week, would be Vardy, Wilson and Barnes. Barnes, his last 4 home matches, has had 16 shots, 14 in the box, 6 on target. And that's actually more, if you look at the home and away differences between what people are playing, strikers are playing this week, it's actually the best. But he's been delivering on that as well, as David pointed out, 3 goals in those matches. I think he's he's a differential captaincy option. Don't laugh, I think, even with that.
Wow.
I think he's a really good...
Wow.
Leicester have conceded 10 goals last 4 road trips. I would be utterly surprised if Ashley Barnes doesn't get some form of attacking returns this week. It would absolutely shock me. More so than Salah not getting a return. Ashley Barnes not returning this week would be a shocker, I believe. Vardy, I think, is a great option. I will not get him. It just doesn't kind of work out. I want to keep Jimenez. I've already got Barnes. I prefer Wilson. But Vardy is a great option. His underlying stats. Now, this is interesting. Lots of people who look at underlying stats. Vardy... people should know, if they weren't around playing fantasy football during Leicester's title-winning season, Vardy is one of those anomalies. He doesn't need a lot of shots to get returns. So if you see him with not many shots, it doesn't matter. So then all his shots, last 4 away, he's had 5 shots. That's over 4 games. That's absolutely hopeless. 4 in the box, 4 on target, 2 goals and an assist. So that's great. That's a great return. So don't be put off by anything that looks like poor underlying stats. Burnley have conceded 6 in their last 4 home matches, but only 3 big chances. Vardy, though, I think will get a goal, possibly. So he might not score, he might get a goal. I don't think it's going to be a mega return, though. Historically, he's only scored 2 in his last 6 against the Clarets. 1 in 2018, 1 in 2015. This is in the league, and he does know how to score against them. And for those that closely watch Vardy, Burnley are just the kind of team that doesn't suit him. They defend en masse at the back, and he's got no chance to kind of be unleashed and run at them there. I think the best option is Callum Wilson. Last 4 home matches he's played, 8 shots, 6 in the box, 5 on target, 3 goals and an assist. He's got better underlying stats than Vardy, but he's similar to Vardy. He's returning as well. Newcastle have conceded 6 in the last 4 away matches. So when I showed the picture of the Spider-Man with Wilson and Fraser, this is why I like the idea of both of them. I think both of them are heavily transferred in this week, so they're a bit of a shield. Combine them though, and what they've obviously become that magical Excalibur of a sword from the south coast. So they're my 3 options there. I don't know what anyone else thinks, or I suspect Luke might want to be championing Higuain perhaps.
I think we're quite lucky. Just to finish up, I think we're quite lucky with having so many budget strikers around this time. You've got Arnautovic as well, someone that hasn't been mentioned, but if Pellegrini's conference was a little bit, no one's really sure. But if he starts against Huddersfield, he's going to be really low owned and a good sword, as you say. A question that I thought would be really key this week is for what people do with Jimenez, because I haven't got much money tied up in him, so I can lose him. I lose 0.1 off him because I got him really late. A lot of people got him at 5.5, 5.6, and if you're going to want him back for the end of the season, is it worth trading those? The value for the potential points that you might get, if you can it is a downgrade to someone like, I don't know, Rondon or Barnes or Wilson or someone like that. Are you guys all keeping him? Because you all got him quite early, didn't you?
I'm going to keep him, I think, which might come back to haunt me because that's the reason why I'm not going to get Wilson. So because I've got Rondon and Barnes already, so then that probably means that's why I'll probably go for Fraser, because as someone already mentioned, they're almost like the same player. They tend to assist each other's goals, for example. But for me, I think it's Joe's obviously looked at what he could do in free hit 32, and he's talking about counting pennies, and I feel like I'm going to be doing the same. And Jimenez is very much going to form a part of what I'm going to want to do, because the fact that it's Burnley and Man United, it feels kind of like the perfect matches for Wolves, because it doesn't matter that Burnley are going to defend resolutely, because Jimenez loves to score against the odds, and then of course it's Man United is the other one, and he's been involved in 7 goals in 9 matches against top 6 sides this year, which is just mad. So he scored 4 goals, assisted another 3. His goal return rate in big matches is generally better than against the poor teams. So he is a key double game week player for me. So then if you sell him, then I'm going to have to spend 0.5 to get him back in, and then that's 0.5 I can't put elsewhere. So,
but it's 0.5 compared to having a striker for 2 extra game weeks.
I suppose, but if I feel like Fraser on his own I feel like if I have Fraser instead of Wilson, for example, then I'm happy with the 3-5-2. That's just the way I see it, really. Because Jimenez, I still think is more reliable than Wilson, because Wilson's only just come back from an injury, and as Luke pointed out, it was only Huddersfield.
Yeah, you get him. You get Jimenez and you play him when you can, but you get Wilson in for the 2 weeks. I think this is a really good opportunity for me. Not having Jimenez for ages, I think lots of people can be put off selling him because of the value tied up. And to me, I've lost out on so many points over the weeks not having Jimenez. But if I get Wilson in, which I'm going to do, and Wilson gets 8 points twice, that's 16 points. That's a lot of points. It
does depend where you're at, because as you said, you've only got him recently, so the decision is an easier one to make. But if you're going to lose loads of value, then
you've got to. Jimenez's value is probably still going to come down as well over those 3 weeks.
It has actually. It went down before the Chelsea game, so he went down to 0.8. So I mean, that could happen, but I think that we've seen it before with popular players. They don't necessarily always come down as quickly as you'd like, and then sometimes you do end up having to spend a huge chunk just to pull him back in again. So,
what do you think, Luke? Because you don't seem like someone who would hold on to him. I think you sell him regardless.
Let me get right. I love him, and I think he's the best value attacking player in the game. Like number one,
100%, yeah.
As in easily. So I love him. But at the end of the day, unless you're losing huge value, I'm talking, I don't know, maybe Pogba-esque. I don't know what that would equate to. 0.5. I'm not bothered about that, because I'll just find a different player somewhere later down the line. Rather than have Wilson, I'll have a King, for example, who I also think this week maybe being overlooked. He had great underlying statistics for the last game, and also he's on penalties, so it could easily outscore Wilson at any given moment. Big fan of his. But I just think you can find it else. Like Az says, if you're losing 0.5 on Jimenez and it's 2 extra games, then get rid of him.
Most you could lose him 0.6 because he's gone up 1.3.
Yeah, but then it's just like, I suppose the other side of that is you are then booking in another transfer to get him back potentially. But then I suppose if you're using the wild, there's so many factors at play here. It just depends what your team's like. But yeah, if you say to me, are you scared about you losing team value on any of your players? The answer is no, unless it's a huge chunk. Like
not at this stage in the season. There's only 8 or 9 game weeks left.
But I mean, the thing is, I just think that for double game week 32, if you're making a free hit team, Jimenez is in that, right? So if you've sold him, you do have to pay the 0.5 to get him back in straight away.
We've all built up such a big team value by now anyway, that it should be for this moment to kind of enjoy it.
I see what David's saying there, yeah. That's right, and most people would have him. But let's say you lose that 0.5. So then you've got to equate in the points that you've made between that. And then, like I said, you can make that 0.5 somewhere else in your team. You have you have Trent instead of Robertson, for example, or somewhere else. So I don't know. I just wouldn't worry about.
I think for me, I think the value is important in game week 32 free hit, because it gives you the option to invest a little bit more in playing defenders, and historically defenders are really, really good value in a double game week. So if you look at what you want to do in a free hit. This is linking in advance to our next Scoutcast, but for that free hit for that double game week, you want to load it with 11 double game weekers, and you want your bench to just be as cheap as chips, because chances are all your players are going to get minutes somewhere. So in defence, you've got some cheap ones in there. So if you haven't got much money, you're going to want to get, I don't know, Peltier and all these 3.8, 3.9 defenders. But if you have that extra money, and we're talking an extra 500,000 here, then you can perhaps maybe get a couple of cheap midfielders in and then load up on that defence. It just gives you those options there, and that's something I looked at as well. Perhaps with getting, say, for example, Laporte in alongside perhaps a Manchester United defender, perhaps keeping Doherty, and perhaps having even a double up on the Chelsea defence there. Azpilicueta, Chelsea defenders are always really good in double game weeks.
Don't forget though, Joe, Liverpool play Spurs that week.
Yeah, they're gone.
And they're at home. So you can do, if you
they're
money,
ditched, they've gone.
To be expensive defenders.
No, this
goodbye
was
Salah, Mane,
but
4
this
million.
was because the other players there potentially is Man City, so perhaps you'll want Aguero and Sterling. Man United have a good double then, so maybe you want Pogba and Lukaku. It soon adds up, and I was adding up all these heavy hitters in there. And it was actually not as easy as I thought. I did actually need that extra 500,000 there, and that's what put me off selling Pogba, and it certainly put me off selling Jimenez. But other people might prefer to look for cheaper value players there. But I quite like the look of a team with Aguero and Sterling in it, I must admit.
Anyway, we got a little bit sidetracked. That wasn't even on the list.
But it's good to talk about those. Good to talk about.
Yeah, I thought it was good. Higuain then. So we'll come to Luke first on Higuain. Higuain versus Vardy. Luke, you got Higuain. You don't have Vardy, right?
No, I don't have Vardy. No.
Regrets?
To be honest, I never even considered Vardy. So obviously, if I'd have gone Vardy over Higuain a little while back, I'd be better off. But at that moment in time, I didn't think Vardy was doing that well. I think he just kind of spurred into action. And Higuain had Fulham, and to be honest, he did get me, I think, 8 points in that game, and probably should have scored a lot more in that game. If anyone saw it, he missed it. But yeah, not chuffed about Higuain. If I could reset and do a free hit, I probably wouldn't have him. But then I'm of the same virtue to say that I like the fact that he's a bit of a differential, and that Firmino is another one. I'd love to have about 9 Liverpool slots, to be honest with you. But if I was really free hitting in this week, I would probably look for the lowest owned Liverpool players. Firmino would probably be one of those, especially amongst the top 10k. He's been doing really well, and just forgo Mane and Salah, for example, something crazy like that, because he is getting overlooked, which is what Grayling said. Every season, I said at the beginning of the season, I think, as you said again, you're not really a fan of Firmino, and he does it in little patches only. But come the end of the season, he always ends up being a pretty good pick, and it's strange how it works out for him. But yeah, give me the choice again, I'd go Vardy at this moment in time. But then I think also the fact that Burnley sit deep. I don't like Vardy or Higuain this week, to be honest with you.
No, I don't. Higuain just doesn't look right. But
actually, he does look right, because he's exactly what Chelsea have had for the last 3 years. He is the perfect Chelsea striker who has loads of shots and loads of them off target. It's 15 shots, 4 on target, and he's like Morata 2.0, which actually few of us thought that might be what happens, and at the moment that's what is the case with him. So very hard to trust, I think.
I think what's kind of key for Vardy is that Rodgers has come in and just said, we are going to literally build this entire team around you. You are our best player. We're going to get the most out of you. Maddison's feeding him all the time. All the players seem to be, get it to Vardy. It's going back to, when they won the league. I love Vardy. I think Vardy's a great option to the end of the season.
Yeah, no, I think he's good, and this Scoutcast has made me want to get Maddison in, which is something I never thought would happen, because I'm not going to get Vardy, and I do think you're right. This is where the eye test comes in. They're all going for Vardy. They're all trying to get the ball to him. They've been told to. He wants it. Yeah. Let's move on to our differentials and clean sheet options for game week 31. So we've probably skimmed through a lot of these. Now I just want to point out as well, just before Az gets going with these, that FPL Fairy has supplied us with some lovely graphics as well. So I shall put them up as Az speaks.
Yeah, really clear. Actually, to have a visual thing is really nice. Well, let's start with differentials. I mean, not great for anyone really. I went for Brooks, nothing. David went for Almiron. Good shout, got an assist, 5. Joe went for Batshuayi, 2. Luke, you went for Jeffrey Schlupp, you got 1. So yeah, not a great week for any of us really. But who are we going for this week? Let's start with David.
Yeah, so I mentioned that Luca Dean would make a comeback, not in my team, but in this Scoutcast. But because it's differential picks, I can go for the outlandish stuff.
He's on the 5%.
I don't think it is. I'm going to bend the rules because I have some stats on him that are still interesting, and
8.2.
I'll pick someone else for the actual spreadsheet. That's okay. Out of defenders who are going to play this game week, only 3 have created more chances in the last 4 game weeks, and 2 of those are Liverpool defenders. So outside of Liverpool, he's the second behind Chilwell. Obviously, he got the assist in the most recent game for them. And, of course, like I said before, he's on the left against Chelsea. It's very weird that Azpilicueta, I'd say, is probably their best defensive player. But he seems to be the one that's allowing the space for some exploitation. So, yes, I think Luca Dean is going to do really well this week. And I shall formalise someone who's under 5% between this podcast and the next one. And I apologise. And
I will tell FPL Fairy to edit this spreadsheet. I'm glad you said Dino, because I've got him, and I feel like I'm the only one. I'm surprised he hasn't gone under 5%. I feel like I'm the only one with him left. Luke?
I think David has to forfeit, like go for Jagielka or something now.
Yeah, no, Leighton Baines.
Go on,
I think Leighton Baines would be fitting.
No, I'll have Seamus Coleman then, who might not even play. We'll go with him. Seamus Coleman. He plays on the left, right?
Something like that. Luke?
Yeah. Differentials. Yeah, I've gone for Lanzini just because I think he's a quality player and I think they've got a great fixture. It's just as simple as that, really. He's looked pretty bright since he's come back, but obviously West Ham in general have been pretty bad. So I'm hoping this will be just the game that they need to spark them back into life. Because I think West Ham are one of those teams that it can happen just like that. And Pellegrini as well has been known for that kind of thing throughout his career, where they sort of go on bad runs with City, if you remember. Then suddenly, 5 goals happen out of nowhere, and I think. This is the best game for it to happen. So we'll see.
I mean, surely they'll win that.
I mean, if they lose that, I mean, Pellegrini's job's going to start looking bad.
They're decent at home, so I can't really see them having too much problem. I'm following on from that. I'm going to go for Snodgrass. I think he's one of the reasons why Philip Ellison's doing so bad. He's a bit harsh, but I think he eats into a lot of Allison's points because he takes quite a lot of the set plays, which Allison would probably be on anyway.
He takes them better as well. He's got much better delivery.
Well, exactly. Whenever I've seen Allison take a free kick or something, it looks pretty poor, but apparently he's supposed to be quite good at them. And I think, Snodgrass, he's really cheap and no one's really got him, and he seems to be playing, the majority of the game now. So I think if you're looking for a bit of money on a pre-hit or a little punt over the next few weeks, he's pretty fair and decent shout. Joe?
Yeah, I'm going for the sharpness of Austrian steel, the ultimate sword. It's Ashley Barnes. For all the reasons I've already mentioned, don't need to go into those again. But it just surprised me that he's only owned by 3.5% of people. What a great differential this week.
It's crazy that he's so poorly owned. Because he's been banging him in for ages. I feel like with that type of form, that's the kind of form that pulls someone in, gets all of a sudden 15% ownership, price rises every week. It's crazy it's not happened for him.
Who'd have thought that Ashley Barnes and Burnley don't have global appeal? What's the world?
Yeah, I probably would have taken the other Austrian as my differential, Arnautovic, but I think he's just over 5%.
He is.
So I couldn't have him. Is he? Maybe let me check. He's got 7.4.
Break the rules. That's what I did accidentally.
Yeah, I know. 7.4 for Arnautovic, which is quite high.
We don't have to restrict picks to Austrians, by the way. Just there's plenty of other nations available.
So clean sheets. I mean, less said about last week the better. There wasn't really many clean sheets, and none of us got one right. I won Andy's respect by pulling out some stats about Everton, who then lost 3-2 to Newcastle. So cheers for that, boys. David went for Palace. That was a bad shout with Knockaert scoring absolute worldies. Joe went for Liverpool, which is Luke normally goes for Liverpool, then they concede.
I go for City, not Liverpool.
Oh yeah, sorry, City. Yeah, no, you've had Liverpool. You had Liverpool once, to be fair, and you went for Leicester, Luke, and they conceded as well. So none of us got one right. Let's just try and do a bit better this week. Let's go for you, Joe, first.
Bournemouth. I've gone for only conceded twice and only conceded 4 big chances over the last 4 home matches. Has been pointed out in the last few videos we've done. Their home defence is actually quite good recently. Newcastle have only had 1 big chance over the last 4 away matches. Only Huddersfield have had fewer. So I said similar about Liverpool last week and they conceded. But let's go for it, Bournemouth. I want to try and get to David and Adam's lofty heights of 50% accuracy right with clean sheet picks.
Yeah, it's nice having that chart. Well, I mean, not nice because I'm not doing that well, but it's nice to see it visually. I'm going to go for Liverpool because they're Liverpool when they're away at Fulham. Easy. Luke?
Yeah, similar. West Ham, we've been through it. According to the bookies, they've got the best chance of a clean sheet this week.
There you go.
Mainly because Huddersfield have scored 8 goals all season and none this year away from home. This away from home stats, by the way. I know we've said that a few times already.
Yep, it's very sensible. David?
Yeah, so obviously I went last. So this is one of those weeks where really you are scraping the barrel. I initially was thinking I'm going to pick no one, and then I'll get it right. But I've actually gone for Everton. I'm doubling up on my cheeky differential, and the chances of it coming in are low. But as I said, I mean Chelsea away from home, goal conversion has been quite poor. I don't really trust Higuain. Hazard is Hazard in FPL. So, you know, if there's going to be a shock clean sheet this week, I think it would be Everton.
Bold. I like it.
But you have to be. I mean,
I thought you'd go Chelsea, but
well, I don't know. They're the kind of team that will concede in this match.
58% own differentials, Everton the clean sheet. God, full on Maverick, David.
Here we go.
That's it. That's it for this.
Okay, rightio. Well, let's move on to our Game Week 31 moves, transfer plans, and captaincy. Let's start with you first, as I think I make that you have 8 Game Week 31 players already. I don't think I've got that right. Obviously, I'm not counting your double goalkeepers because you can only play one.
What? That's not fair.
So what are your plans then? And do you anticipate taking hits? We've had lots of questions about hits. So how many hits, if any, are you going to be taking?
I'll definitely be taking the -4. So Jimenez and Sterling are going for Wilson and Hazard, which is nice. Yeah, I mean Jimenez is an easy choice because I haven't got much value tied up in him. I do appreciate it's more difficult for others. And then Sterling to Hazard. I still think Hazard's a good option this week because of what we talked about earlier. So then I've got to decide whether I want to take another -4 to bring in a defender for Luke Shaw. I could afford anyone up to 5.9, so I'm probably looking at someone like Maguire or David Luiz or Emerson or someone like that. I think Luke hit the nail on the head. It's worth it because it's going to cost me 2 points and you never know what could kind of happen. The kind of only reason I'm a little bit reluctant is because come 33, I could get a full team out without the extra hit, so it's kind of purely down for one game week. So it's not quite as
I think
exciting.
a Chelsea defender looks a good one for you there.
Yeah, I think so.
Because of game week 33.
It forms a bit of a shield.
Yeah.
So I'll probably do Shaw to Emerson. A little bit of a punt on Emerson because I think he's a decent shout, depending on the Europa League lineup.
And your captaincy is Salah, not Mane?
I've got Salah, and I said this a few weeks ago and didn't do it, but I've got to use a triple captain at some point. There's not that many weeks left. Doesn't look like there's going to be a real chance using a double because I've got the bench boost and the free hit to use. So I think this week could be as good as any to triple captain Salah. So I'm tempted. Okay,
well let's go with Luke next. Now, by my calculations, you have a full set of 11. Have you already made some moves then?
I have already made some moves, yeah. Rage transfers. No, it's just I had Son, I think, was losing value. So he was always going to be my transfer out, obviously for the blanks and stuff as well. So I wanted to actually get Brooks instead of Fraser, but then at the time when I made the early transfer, Brooks came off, or it looked like it might have been an injury, but I think it was just fatigue in the end. So I went for Fraser purely for that reason. And the rest of my team's pretty much been set up for this week for a while, to be honest with you. I've been planning for this 31 and 33 ages in advance, like using my old Sky tactics of planning way too far in advance as usual and missing out on points in the meantime. Man City, I'm looking at you. So yeah, I mean, again, my team looks like it will do well this week because I've got 11 players. So that's all.
I've heard that before.
Yeah, and you've got
exactly.
you've got Klein in there for Steve Cook.
Yeah, because again, another race track. Steve Cook, I bought him in and he gets injured straight away. And I was like, I wanted that Bournemouth defender. And it's not just for this, it's for 31 and 33. So I have taken a hit this week, and that was to do Steve Cook to Klein because I wanted to get the full 11 out. It only cost
me a really annoying one.
It only cost me 2. Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't have had to take it. So it's only cost me 2 points, and then I'll play him as well in 33. So 2 points.
I love the Felipe Anderson vice, Luke.
Yeah, and to be honest, if I knew he'd play, because obviously he came off early, that was the annoying thing, I would consider him for the captaincy. And such is my faith that he's going to do well.
Triple captain?
Not triple.
Convincing me to keep him, definitely.
Hold those thoughts.
Mane, your captain over Salah. You're not being caught out by that cheeky Salah again. Mane's your man.
Well, I mean, for me, the most sensible thing here would be to captain Salah because I've got 11 players and I can't lose. If I captain Salah and I have 11 players, I'm going to have a better than average week, right? Yeah. So that's what I should do. But you know me, so we'll see what happens.
Okay. David, let's move on to your team. I'll quickly tot this up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Am I right? You've got 8 games.
I thought it was 8. Yeah.
And have you got 2 transfers?
I have 2 transfers. Yeah. So I can get to 11 with a -4 on paper. But it's just who I take out because obviously, as we've just sort of been talking about, I'd be reticent to sell Pogba. I can get Son up to Hazard, no problem, because I've got about 3 million in the bank. So I think that will probably. I mean, so I think Doherty's going to go. I think because while Jimenez I think is a must-have for the double game weeks, I don't think Doherty is. So I think I'm going to move him on. I don't know. No one, like I said, no one really inspires in defence. I can't do a Liverpool double up. So maybe that might be a Klein or maybe another Bournemouth defender, just because, it would be good for 33 as well. And I've got a bill for that too. I suppose, if I'm looking to maximise what I think is the best team this game week, I'd do a -4 and I'd put a Bournemouth defender in for Doherty and I'd take Pogba and Son out for Hazard and Fraser. And that would give me a full 11 with a Bournemouth attacker, 2 Liverpool attackers, Hazard, who's going to be, highly sought after, I think, this week, Rondon and Barnes up front, Anderson, who, as we've just been told, is going to have a blinder, so definitely need to have him. And then, Pereira, not that happy with, but it's just he's going to play. So, I haven't decided, I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do. I might not even take the hit, but bearing in mind that the hit might actually help me prep for 33 a bit more, maybe that's what I'll do. Captaincy, that's not going to budge off Salah. I've been trusting in the underlying stats and contrasting home versus away all season, and I just Salah just seems the more likely to have a big haul this week than Mane, and of course the ownership thing as well. Triple captain, definitely tempted, absolutely predicting that I'm gonna chicken out, but I will be thinking about it Thursday, Friday night, definitely.
Okay, on to my one. Now I'm not as well prepared. I have 1 transfer and I have 7 Game Week 31 players. I curse to this day my decision to remove Sigurdsson and Luca Dean for the utterly hopeless Anderson and the even more utterly hopeless Pereira. Because if I hadn't have done that, I could go into the game week with them and those Everton players, which I'd be okay with, and I'd probably better get 11 out. As it is, I'm looking at 2 hits. There's so many hits going around this week. Lots and lots of people, no matter how well prepared they are taking a hit. So I'm quite happy to take a -8. I think amongst a lot of my kind of mini league rivals, I think that's more or less a -4 really, rather than a -8 because of so many other hits. Aguero to Wilson is the only definite. If I don't remove Anderson or Pogba, which I probably won't, Højbjerg to one of Fraser or Maddison, and then Wan-Bissaka is going to go because I don't have too much money tied up in him anymore, and I've got Guaita, so I'm not too bothered with Wan-Bissaka. To a defender, and that could be Rice as a bit of a West Ham shield. It could be Azpilicueta for that Chelsea double up defensive sword, and that's looking really ahead to game week 33. I think I'd be more or less okay in game week 33 with that setup there. I may even have the luxury of getting rid of Anderson, which would be nice, to whichever of Maddison and Fraser I don't get. But as I said, I think if I can get away with like a small red arrow or small green arrow, I'd consider myself okay this week. But yeah, so one of those things. But thanks so much for joining me. It's been a shorter set of fixtures, but it's been a longer than usual game week Scoutcast. So yeah, I don't know. We couldn't shut up about these lack of fixtures. But for now, it's a good night from me.
Good night from me.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night all.